Hello, this is Professor Morrison, and here is your presentation on comparison and contrast writing. We use comparison and contrast writing to highlight specific qualities or conditions and offer a clearer understanding of two subjects. It's one of the ways that we explore our world and make more sense of it. We compare and contrast all the time. Anytime you want to make a choice over what you're going to buy, where to go for lunch, which cell phone service plan to buy, what car to buy, what sport you want to play, what pet you would like to have, we make comparisons and contrasts all the time. You could be asked to write comparison and contrast essays or paragraphs in almost any class. And this is used in order to show the differences and similarities between two or more items and to really take them apart, analyze them, put back together what you've learned with synthesis, and then form a judgment, a conclusion. And in order to do this, we need to use our thesis statement to make clear what two subjects you're comparing and or contrasting and why these similarities or differences are important. One way to visualize comparison and contrast is to use a Venn diagram. This can be really helpful in the pre-writing stage when you're considering both subjects and what their similarities are and what their contrasts are. And so you would have subject 1 and subject 2. That's a 2, sort of. And you would write everything that's unique to subject 1 in here and everything unique to subject 2 in here, and anything that they share would go in the middle. And then we know that these are the contrast areas and this is the area of comparison. Here is an example of a Venn diagram that's already been filled out. On one side we have whales and on the other side we have fish. These are two different types of creatures. So what is unique to whales? Well, they're mammals, so they have hair, they give live birth, and they breathe air. They also live in the water, have fins, and can swim. Now, what about fish? What's unique to fish? Well, they're not mammals. They're fish. They lay eggs, they have scales, and they breathe water. But they also live in the water, have fins, and can swim. And when we do our pre-writing and we start listing what is unique to each item and what they have in common, we can see more clearly what we might want to write about and why it's important. When you're asked to write a comparison and contrast essay or paragraph, ask yourself, what two subjects do you want to compare or contrast? And why do you want to compare or contrast these subjects, or what is your purpose? And to accomplish your purpose, what should you focus on? Similarities or differences or both? A comparison and contrast essay is an essay like the ones that you've probably been writing already. It does have some differences, but here's what it has in common with other essays. It should have 3 parts: an introduction, a body, and conclusion. The introduction should include 3 things, just like any other essay: a hook to catch the reader's interest, background information, and then it ends with a thesis statement. The body then supports the thesis with facts, examples, and reasons. And some techniques that we use in the conclusion after we've summarized is to ask a question or provide a call to action, a prediction, or a recommendation. The formula that we would use for a thesis statement for comparison and contrast needs to include both items being compared or contrasted and the 3 ways that they are different or similar. So you need an A and a B and a 1, 2, and 3. And here's 2 different ways to write them with specific examples. 1, there are several differences or similarities, pick one of these, between A and B, such as 1, 2, and 3. And then here is an example of this used in a sentence. There are several differences between high school and college, such as class size, teaching style, and homework. And then you would definitely compare and contrast based on these items here that you've listed your 1, 2, and 3. And we'll get into outline format and structure in just a moment. But first, let's look at our thesis statement. Here's another way you could write this. A and B are different or similar in many ways, such as 1, 2, and 3. So you could say American homes and Japanese homes are different in several ways, such as size, interior space, and use of wood. Once you have your thesis statement and you know your A and your B and your 1, 2, and 3, then you need to pick which organizational pattern best suits your essay. There are two to choose from. The block method, where you discuss all the features of the first subject and then all the features of the second subject, and the point-by-point method, where you choose each feature and shows how it applies to subject 1 and then subject 2, and then do another paragraph for the next feature and another paragraph for the next feature. To use the block method, discuss all the features of your first subject and then discuss all the features of your next subject. This will give you 2 body paragraphs instead of the normal 3. So you want to make sure that you're still using the same features for each one. Our first paragraph would have eggs, the container is a basket, the setting is artificial, and we would use details and evidence to support that. Our second paragraph would talk about eggs, their container is in a nest, and their setting is natural, and we would use many details to talk about that. To use the point-by-point method, choose a feature and then show how it applies to subject 1 and subject 2, then do another paragraph for the next feature and the one after that. So this way you will have 3 paragraphs, one for each of the features, and you will discuss each subject in each paragraph in the order that you introduce them in the thesis statement. So you'll have a paragraph on eggs, and you'll talk about subject 1 and subject 2. And then you will have a paragraph about the basket and the nest. You'll talk about subject 1 and then subject 2. And then you'll discuss setting, artificial and natural, subject 1 and subject 2. In your pre-writing, maybe you used a Venn diagram. And so here you can see how we've got both of our photos of eggs. And we notice that in the middle, they're similar because they're both photos of eggs. One is contained in a basket, one is contained in a nest, one has an artificial setting, and one has a natural setting. Just like in all types of writing, we have transitions that we need to use that are specific to our rhetorical mode. And in comparison and contrast, it's important to use transitions that indicate subordination. And this means that they are words and phrases that indicate inequality or show differences. And so here we have some transition words and phrases that show subordination, although at the same time, by contrast, however, otherwise, and the list goes on. We also have different types of transitions. These transitions show coordination, or they indicate equality or show similarity. And we can say things like similarly, in addition, in the same way, or correspondingly. And this list also goes on. This has been your presentation on comparison and contrast in writing essays and paragraphs. If you have any questions, please let me know.